The J. Michael Show.
Welcome to the show. I'm talking to Jamin Bickell, and he is one of the two hosts of the DispatchIst, a friendly podcast about hell. Welcome to the show, Jamin.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Okay, so I got a question. A podcast about hell. All about hell. What do we need to know about hell?
Absolutely nothing. That's the point. This is a friendly conversation. Uh-huh. We are, and I want to say that there are three of us.
Uh-huh.
We're not just two, there's three of us.
Okay.
And we're all semi-academic, and we're friends, and we love researching.
Mm-hmm.
And we ask the question, why?
Why?
How?
Why hell?
When?
Yes.
Who?
Yes.
Are there other questions?
Exactly.
And
what is hell?
What is hell?
What is it?
Do we need a hell? If we need it, what is it? Is it fiery?
Uh-huh.
Is it icy? Is it boring?
I've always thought hell would be cold, not hot.
That's the thing. Different people.
Uh-huh.
And because we don't have these conversations about hell,
Uh-huh.
we don't sit down and say, hey, what do you think about this? What about this?
So do you take a biblical approach, or are you just taking an academic approach to it?
Oh, we 100% include biblical aspects because here in North America, that's one of our great sources.
Uh-huh.
And most of what we get from hell is in lectures or sermons, or they preach at us, or
Right.
we say, hey, do this or else you'll go to hell.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not saying they're not wrong. I'm not saying they're wrong.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. But let's have a discussion.
Yeah. And where exactly are you going?
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
So like you said, you always thought it was icy.
I would think of it as that. To
There
me,
are-
cold is worse than heat, the fire burns you up, it's over. Cold would just be like, ugh, for a long, long time.
Non-stop suffering.
Yes.
Right.
Non-stop suffering.
And here's what we've learned.
Mhm.
As we ask these questions to each other, we have to answer these questions.
Right.
There's more than just the biblical hell you hear in Sunday school.
Right.
There's a biblical hell.
Uh-huh.
The Bible came from the Jewish faith.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, we had the Canaanite faith, the Ugaritic faith. Before that, Acadia, Sumeria.
Right.
And those hells were dry and dusty. And they weren't even hells, they were more afterlives. Ancient Egyptians.
Right.
Why do we rip your tonsils out through your nose and embalm your kidneys and put you in a box with a cat
Right.
to take you to the afterlife?
Right.
Why do we need someone to guide you through their Egyptian afterlife? Do good Egyptians go somewhere and bad Egyptians go somewhere else? That's episode 13. Right?
Right. Gotta plug that episode.
Buddhism.
Yes.
Chinese people, Indian people, Tibetan people, Venezuelan people.
Right.
These
they
are
all
the
have
questions.
a different version of hell.
But there's so much overlap.
Uh-huh. There are those who would say there is only one hell, and it's the Christian hell. So there could be other hells.
Absolutely.
And there might be, it might not have anything to do with what belief you believe in. You could end up in one of these other hells.
Absolutely.
So how does that work?
That comes down to belief. It also, you could believe one thing,
Uh-huh.
and I'm not going to say where you're going to end up, but maybe you're not going to go to hell.
Mm-hmm.
What if at the end of your life you just stop breathing? Ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
And you go nowhere.
We
You
ask these
just stop.
questions. Right?
Yes.
Why would you believe this? Who's to help you believe this?
Right.
What causes you to believe this?
Right.
Are you doing this because your dad told you, and his dad told him, and do
It's
you
a
believe
tradition.
this? Is it a tradition?
Right.
And so we kind of want to approach this in two ways, as not something scary to talk about.
Yeah.
We talk about scary things all the time. When's the last time you talked about cancer?
Yeah.
Christ, that's scary.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
But we got to sit down. Hey, my mom's had it 3 times.
So do you think that a person could literally be in hell on earth?
That is something we've discussed.
Uh-huh.
Is hell a construct of humanity?
Mm-hmm.
Can you have hell without religion?
Right.
Is suffering the same as hell?
Exactly. I didn't think about that. If again, like you said, you have cancer and you're dying and you're in pain from some debilitating disease, are you in hell?
Right. And do you deserve hell?
Good question.
We all know the stories. Man, that dude was such a jerk. He's going to hell for sure.
Absolutely.
Right.
And
whereas this poor dude, he did nothing. He's kind and sweet and kind, but he's got cancer of the elbows.
exactly.
What did he do to deserve that?
Exactly. And so it raises a lot of questions about not only what hell is, but what you believe hell is, and it has more to do with you than it has to do with the belief per se.
Correct.
What you think it is.
And we go back, and again, like I said, we try to take this academically, but also, man, if I want to sit down with you, we're going to go out afterwards, we're going to go to the bar, have a couple beers, and we're just going to talk over some wings. I'm not going to be able to cite my sources. I'm going to tell you some dumb jokes.
Right.
This conversation that we're having, it's a friendly conversation about hell.
Right.
And so when we say things like ancient Sumeria, ancient Babylonians, and we have the priest society, the priests are the rulers of society. We've got kings, but the priests are the ones who say plant in the spring, harvest in the fall, wash your clothes, boil your meat, don't get germs.
Right.
We're setting society boundaries.
Right.
And so you have to, like, and this is big topics. I'm not saying this is how it was, but if the priests and the educated class know that if you don't boil your water and cook your meat all the way through, you get poor nutrition and the chance for food poisoning.
Exactly.
Which is suffering.
Yeah.
So we have I don't want to say a controlling religion, but a religion that guides society towards a better path, rather than eating undercooked raw pork, rather than drinking dirty water.
Right. And how did these people know back then when they didn't know what germs were? How did they know to tell you to not do these things or to do certain things?
I know I look old, but I wasn't there. So this is conjecture on my part.
Okay.
Trial and error.
Yeah.
The states were, less than 300 years old?
Yeah.
They've got thousands of years. If we know that this clan consistently boils their water and has healthy, happy babies, and this clan just drinks mud from their boots, and they're always sick, let's try. Hey, guys, try this.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, try this.
So do you think that religions came from trial and error, that came from them learning one thing and then another and then deciding, well, we're going to write this all down in a book?
Ooh, not directly. It sounds good to say it that way, but this is directly equating religion to society. You can have religion without society, and you can have society without religion.
You can have Stoics.
You can have Stoics.
Yes.
You can have a society which still wants the betterment of its own kind without religion. And you can have religion which is just absolutely terrible for you.
Right.
Where, hey guys, what we're going to do is we're going to drink some wine, we're going to dance around in circles for 4 hours, and we're going to wait for the comet to come and get us.
Yeah.
It's a religion.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying they were bad. I'm not saying they didn't have love in their heart. I'm going to say they care about each other. But their hopes for the society weren't based on great choices.
Right. And we also have cults that believe different things.
Right.
Exactly. So tell me about, how do you think cults relate to this belief in hell? You know, we had the Heaven's Gate people that...
Exactly.
Exactly.
Their concept of heaven was peace on earth, goodwill towards men. And one thing they specifically didn't address is, does Heaven's Gate have a hell? Where did the rest of us go?
Right.
This was very narrow-minded. I don't think they thought it all the way through. Because hell is not necessarily a punishment for those who sin, but a warning to those who are considering sinning.
Right.
Right? I don't want to... In fact, honestly, if hell exists and hell is empty, hell is doing its job. Right?
Yeah.
Now, let's just pick some easy ones. Let's pick some commandments.
Sure.
What's a couple good ones? Don't murder. That's a good
Yeah.
one. And
Don't covet another man's wife.
no, that one's too difficult. Let's stick with
Okay.
murder. Let's stick with
Okay,
murder.
let's
right?
stick with murder.
Let's just say
Don't kill people.
there's only one commandment, and it's don't murder.
Uh-huh.
If you kill someone, you're going to hell.
Uh-huh.
And if you don't kill someone, then you don't go to hell.
Now, here's a question for you. If you think about killing somebody, but you don't actually do it, but you're obsessed with, I want to kill this guy, are you going to hell?
Based on the rules we just set with the one commandment religion, no.
No, because you didn't do it.
Because, and this comes down to thought. And we talk about thought a lot. Lust, greed, avarice, sloth. We're talking about the 7 deadly sins, not the commandments.
Yeah.
Sloth is a deadly sin because I'm too lazy to get up and go to work. Because you're not contributing to society.
Right.
You're not pulling your weight.
Right.
You're not going out there and cutting corn and harvesting the grain and, and making clothes and jeans and fixing cars.
Exactly, and that's why we stuck it in there, because we want you working
You're
for us.
dead weight.
Right.
But just because you're lazy, just because you're bringing society down, does that mean you need to be punished? Or does that mean you need to be
Motivated. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So
hell is a motivator.
in some aspects of hell, hell's a motivator.
Yes. Yeah, don't do this or you'll go to hell. Let's scare the kids. And
Exactly. We're scaring the kids. Don't
Right.
do this or the boogeyman's going to come get you.
Exactly.
Now,
hell.
we talk about this. Like, does it work?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Were you ever a kid? I
Well,
wasn't.
yeah, I mean, there was
wasn't.
things that you just absolutely didn't do, you know?
And then when you grew up and you had a perspective, you're like, oh, I could have done this all along, but there would have been repercussions.
Right. There would have been consequences.
And so
So hell is a consequence.
hell can be a
It
consequence.
can be a consequence. Is hell a physical place, or is it a ethereal location? I mean, where your soul burns in hell, or do your body go there? Because, I mean, when you think of hell, you think of we're all going to burn in hell.
Exactly.
Right. And that's a physical sensation of burning, and you know what that feels like. So it's like you take a child and you put a candle and you say, don't stick your finger in that candle, because if you do, it'll burn you. It means nothing to the kid until he actually does it.
Right.
Once he sticks his finger in there, he knows what that feels like.
Right.
And that experience taught him, don't do that.
Which is why, and we'll get back to his hell physical, but
Okay.
which is why if you're going to teach someone the, experience.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, wisdom. Wisdom can be learned 3 ways. Wisdom can be learned through reflection, which is the noblest. If you sit there and you think and you meditate, how can I do good? Wisdom can be learned through imitation, which is the easiest.
Right.
I watched you set, bro, this podcast set up with these 3 cameras. Like, this is great. I'm going to come back and copy this exact setup. And you did all the hard work and I gained the wisdom. How
That's
easy.
it. You know how to do it now.
Right? And the third way wisdom can be learned is experience,
Right.
which is the bitterest.
Yeah, because you had to do it with me.
It hurts.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I don't know about this setup is everything that doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know the mistakes you made along the way and how to fix them.
Right.
I don't. So when a mistake happens,
You got to go. You got to go through it all
I
over
get
again.
all over again.
Right.
So if you want to teach someone experience, and I'm not saying give small children matches, but if you give a small child a match and he burns his finger, he's going to learn.
Right.
But if you put a small child near a campfire with a bag of marshmallows, that kid's going to the hospital.
Yeah.
And he's not recovering. And even though he learned fire is bad, that is a detrimental, painful lesson which he can't recover from.
It's like giving kids. Excuse me. It's like giving kids fireworks.
Exactly. Teach kids how to properly light the fuse, run away, sandburn. Yeah, absolutely. Teach them how to control this dangerous thing.
Right.
What's more dangerous than society? If we get society wrong,
Right. We're blowing up everything.
Blowing up everything.
Yeah, because we don't know any better.
I have a story. Down in Houston, Texas, Rice University, there's a section of the Berlin Wall. And I traveled down there one day to see this Berlin Wall. and there's some young youth hanging around, high school kids, and they walk up, and I'm just admiring this because I was 9 when Reagan said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall." I watched it.
I have a piece of the Berlin Wall. It's about like this big, and a friend of mine that was on the military base there picked it up for me, and the base commander and he filled out a form and authenticated that this is actually a piece of concrete from the Berlin Wall and sent it to me. Just thought I'd throw that in.
Absolutely.
But
And I because this was a big thing, and these young, I say they're young, they're in high school, they walk up and they recognize it. And I was about to walk away and let them be, and I turned and I said to them, "Hey guys, don't let this happen again."
Yeah.
And they look at me, "What is this old man talking about? Come on, Graybeard." And I said, "Think about it. This wall separated families, separated a generation, separated a world, an entire world left and right from this wall. I'm old. I'm done. You're the future.
Right.
Don't let this happen again."
Exactly.
And they looked at me, and I loved it because you see the little light bulbs go off in their head. It was like, "Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
We are the future society. We are the decision makers for the future."
Right.
Now, I'm not saying the Berlin Wall was the worst thing we could have done, but as a society, it was not great for humanity, for ourselves.
No.
So yeah,
it
absolutely.
separated whole nations and people and everything. And it is their responsibility to deal with this, and now we've put them into consequences. You know.
So hell as a teaching tool, as a motivational tool.
Yeah.
What happens if you don't learn? As a punishment?
Yeah.
Is punishment necessary? Can you learn without punishment?
I don't know. That's a good question there.
I got punished a bunch as a child.
Yes.
And now, as an adult, in my job, I work with a lot of like fun stuff. If I mess up, my boss doesn't say, "You're fired." She doesn't say, "Your pay is cut." She doesn't say, "You have to wear green socks for a week." She says, "Jamin, fix it."
Yeah.
And you know what I do? I fix it.
Yeah.
Right? I don't need to be punished. I've learned from my mistakes.
Yeah. But you're a responsible adult, and
But
you
I'm a
realize
responsible adult.
I need to do that.
So, are we making society responsible? Are we trying to make society responsible?
Or are we just using this as a crutch to get by with not having to take responsibility necessarily ourselves?
And there's a timeline. We're not just talking 0 AD to 33 AD, right? You know those dates?
Yeah.
Right? Well, I'm not saying 33 AD, hell started and up till now.
Whoa, just dropped a little part behind you. Go ahead, don't worry about it.
There were times when hell was misused. There was a period of time when the Catholic Church had a thumb on society. They
Right.
owned the kings, they owned the emperors, they did this. The churches were big and grandiose. And they said, well, if you don't want to go to hell, you'll pay your taxes.
Right.
Ooh, is that misuse of a resource?
It's a good question.
Right? Why
Yeah.
were all the churches gilt, golden, velvet, beautiful stonework, cast iron, everything? Who paid for that?
Well, the people did.
The people did.
Because they felt it was their responsibility because they had been guilted into doing it.
Right?
Guilt.
Now, that's one side. I'm not saying all hell is bad. I'm not saying the Catholic Church is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not.
We need controls in society.
Exactly.
We do need these things.
Right.
But they can be
That
misused
sounded
like anything else.
A little bit of misuse. Right?
Right.
So, and I don't want to use this example like, oh, well, the church is bad and all hell is bad. Like, don't trust them. No, absolutely. Like, organized religion is great.
Yeah.
You've got family, you've got camaraderie, you've got fellowship, you've got, friendship, you've got mutual support.
Right. But you could also take a whole bunch of people and tell them, let's go to war and let's go kill people.
Which also happened.
And has happened and will happen again.
Humanity is flawed.
Right.
Sorry.
We are. I agree.
And
we have a lot of flaws.
It's not the church's fault.
Right.
Right.
It's the people's fault.
It's the people's fault.
Exactly.
So we discuss this a lot. We talk sociopolitics, we talk geopolitics, we talk history, ancient history, near history, linguistics, the root words of things.
Right, which is very important.
Which is
because
very
it's important to
important.
understand where things come from.
Right.
Exactly.
And so we say things like the Catholic Church. Well, the Holy Catholic Church, the Holy Universal Church, because the Greek Orthodox Church, while they consider themselves Catholic, are very different than the English Catholic Church.
Just like you have Baptists and you have Jehovah Witnesses.
Exactly.
They're the same, but they're very, very different in the way they do things.
Exactly.
Right. This is an interesting conversation. I think your podcast would be fascinating to listen to. Tell me, how does somebody find your podcast?
Okay, on all the platforms, Apple, iTunes, SoundCloud, Amazon, everything. It's DispatchIst.
DispatchIst. Okay.
And then our website is dispatch.ist. Spell it out. All the episodes are there. There's some brief essays, some show notes on some of them because we talk about things. We'll post pictures. We'll cite our sources. Sometimes we'll cite our sources.
And that I'm just going to go here. The website is www.dispatch.ist. So it's dispatch.ist at the Dispatchist. And that's where they can find your podcast. Victoria, Jacob, Jamin are all the do you have guests on your show?
Absolutely. We've had guest speakers come in. We've had presenters come in. We've done some work with the Austin Paranormal Society. We've worked with a couple of professors down in San Antonio who are very well written on infernology and the afterlife.
Do you consider it a religious broadcast?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Why not? You're talking about hell. Why not?
Right. Because we can talk about cancer, and I'm not a doctor. We can talk about child abuse, and I'm not a social worker.
Right.
We can talk about how difficult it is to get clean water in South America, and I don't know what kind of person that is, but I'm not him.
You're not an engineer.
I'm not an engineer.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah. It's your ideas and your thoughts.
It's approachable.
Right. And more people need to be talking about this from this point of view because, as you said at the beginning of the broadcast, the only perspective we get of hell is from preachers.
Right.
And maybe there are other perspectives that we need to entertain. And as a society, we need to pay attention from all angles, not just one.
Exactly.
Right.
And there are lots of discussions which are not really taboo, but just not open, where you can know a person your entire life and not know what they think about hell.
Right.
The concept of...
Or do you believe in hell at all?
Or do you even believe in hell at all?
Right. How do you approach an atheist?
From behind, so they don't hear you coming. And this is great. It's because it's not just hell. What happens when you die? What happens in the afterlife?
Right.
Do you cease? Are you reborn into a new person?
Yeah, reincarnation.
Right. Reincarnation does not necessarily need a deity.
Okay, but if you reincarnate, you're bypassing hell. You're coming back here. You're not. If you've done something really horrible in your life, and you're going to go to hell, but when you die, you reincarnate back here. Is this hell, or did you just get to skip it?
So, good question. Is reincarnation, you come back as a human? Is reincarnation part of your goodness? So if I'm a good man, I become a better person in the next life. If I'm a bad man, I come back as a grasshopper.
Oh.
Right? Is it a scale where you're working your way up to the top and nirvana?
Who you were before determines who you're going to be next.
Or is it just there's only a limited number of souls and the earth just uses them up until we're out of humans? No good, no bad. We're just humans.
Right.
We've got past lives. We've got memories. Does it have to do with how good you were?
Well, there's a question there. If you're a very, very good person, but you don't believe in anything, but you're a very, very good person, are you not going to go to hell? Or is it well, yeah, but you didn't believe in our prophet, so sorry, I don't care how great you were, you're going to hell. And therein lies the dilemma of what is it?
Is
And
hell
where-
eternal?
Yes.
Can you be redeemed from hell?
Yeah. Can you get out of hell?
Can your family pray for you after?
Now, there are people, there are sects
Ooh.
that believe they can pray you out of hell.
Yep.
Even though they know you were a really bad person and you may deserve to be there,
Yep.
we'll get you out. You get it's like a get out of jail free card.
Except it's not free.
What's not free?
Well, your family has to work.
Uh-huh.
That takes effort.
Yeah.
There might be money involved. You might have to
can
pay
you
for those camps.
buy somebody out of hell?
Ooh.
And who do you pay? The preacher?
Right.
Right?
So the answer is, if you don't believe, what happens to you? Have you? And this is one of those things is, if you've never asked the question,
Right.
ask the question.
Yeah.
I can't give you the answer.
Yeah.
In fact, we spent 3 years not knowing the answer, and finding out there's a lot of things we didn't know.
That you know now.
A lot of complicated processes which we're still working through.
Yeah. So if you're an evangelical and you have a billion-dollar house and 5 yachts and 6 cars and you've become wealthy because you're a famous evangelical, are you going to go to hell because of all of that?
I'm not going to name any names because
Okay,
we
yeah.
all know several names of houses and cars and yachts. But that evangelical brought thousands and thousands of souls to heaven.
Yeah.
So in the end, he did good work,
Uh-huh.
bringing the lost
Right.
in. And maybe he's misusing his earthly rewards. But you could say one man goes to heaven or 10,000 men go to heaven.
Which was more important? It's 4:30.
I am going to
Dash out of
I'm going
here.
to say something incredibly smart just now.
Okay. Say something smart and give us your website, and then you can get out of here.
I was just going to hope you cut and didn't let the audience know I wasn't going to say anything smart. Dadgummit.
I know,
We
I
are
ruined it for you.
dispatch.ist. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, the interwebs. We'll pretend there's TikTok, but there's probably not TikTok.
Jamin Bickell, thank you so much for being my guest. We will see you next time.
Absolutely.
I know you got to talk, you got to go do, so
Thank you so much.
later.
Take care. See you in hell.
Goodbye.